So CEO pay has increased much faster than corporate profits or the pay of other people in the economy. Does this mean that CEOs are overpaid in the United States? No, it doesn't prove it. There could be other explanations for the increase. Maybe the CEOs of U.S. public companies have more outside opportunities now than they used to have. Maybe their jobs have gotten more difficult. Maybe boards have taken away their third corporate jet, and so they have to get paid more in salary. There could be all sorts of explanations for these changes. And so the level of CEO pay by itself does not indicate that U.S. CEOs are overpaid. So what I'm going to do in today's talk is I'm going to describe 3 good reasons to think that U.S. CEOs on average are overpaid. First of all, I'm going to talk about what goes on at the board level, how CEOs are able to influence their own pay. I'm going to talk about the evidence showing a link between executive power in the United States and CEO pay. And then I'm going to talk about the widespread camouflaging, the hiding and spinning of executive pay, which we would not expect to see if pay levels were proper. So this is what the official view of CEO pay looks like. You have 2 parties, fully informed, bargaining with their own money, haggling over pay. This woman here represents the CEO. She's selling her services or goods in this picture. Here is the board, bargaining hard. Maybe they'll reach an agreement, maybe they won't. Maybe he'll go and buy greens from some other seller. A lot of screaming, yelling, a lot of tension and suspense. That's what the financial economists who write about executive pay want you to believe happens in the boardroom. Even if they don't have a pre-existing relationship with the CEO, they're often grateful to be invited on the board, either by the CEO or with the CEO's approval. So it's going to be hard for them to stand up to the CEO and say, hey, you're getting paid too much. There's also collegiality and team spirit. So the boards of these companies, they work together on various things throughout the year. It's not easy after you've been working with someone for a while on various things that have nothing to do with the CEO's pay to turn around in April as part of the compensation committee and be tough with the person with whom you've been working. Finally, there's a problem of cognitive dissonance. Many directors of U.S. public companies are current or former CEOs. And that makes sense because they have experience running big companies. I have no problem with that. But these people have a psychological stake in believing that the system, with all of its excesses, is actually working fine because they themselves benefited from it. So they're not likely to challenge the CEO on pay. Another problem. Pay arrangements are extremely complicated. I think that one reason why pay arrangements are extremely complicated is to make it hard for everybody except for the CEO to figure out exactly how much the CEO is getting. But there may be other reasons. In any event, directors have very limited time and very limited ability to actually understand how the CEO is being paid, what they're being paid, whether it makes sense. Okay, finally, what is the cost of favoring CEOs, the financial cost to directors? It's very low. The typical director in the United States owns approximately 0.005% of the firm's stock. So the cost to a director of overpaying a CEO by $5 million is $250. It's the cost of a bottle of, of good wine. So the director's thinking, should I overpay $5 million, assuming he even starts thinking about the amounts he's paying? Well, that'll cost me $250. On the other hand, staying on the board's worth a lot to me because I'm making $300,000. I want to maintain a good reputation as a team player so I can get invited to other boards. I get some donations to my favorite charity, which makes me look good at my favorite charity. And it feels good to get along with other people. So basically what you do is what you have here is you have a problem with other people's money. The CEO is being paid from the director's point of view with other people's money. It gets even worse because all of these factors that I just described would operate on any person. But CEOs tend to look for board directors who are particularly pliant. So the logic of what's happening at the boardroom would suggest that CEOs are getting overpaid for all the reasons that I just described. There's also considerable evidence that shows that there's a link between CEO power and CEO pay. The widespread camouflaging that I'm going to be describing shortly is further evidence that pay is systematically high and too decoupled from performance. So I'm going to talk about various types of camouflage that have been used by companies. I'm going to take you back to before 1992 when U.S. firms did not have to report CEO pay in a standard format. Basically, they had to disclose CEO pay, but they could disclose it anywhere in the proxy statement, and through any type of description and language they wanted to. It seems that if CEOs were paid properly, you wouldn't need to hide what they were being paid. So the fact that there's this camouflaging going on suggests that CEOs are being overpaid. So when I started writing about executive pay about 10 years ago, one of the main critics of my work and my work with Lucian Bebchuk was a guy named Kevin Murphy at USC, and he has, to my great pleasure, recently, 10 years later, come around to the view that managerial power matters. So even the people in the United States in academia who've been the staunchest defenders of CEO pay have come around to the view that managerial power plays a role in CEO pay. So at this point, there's no real debate over whether CEOs are overpaid in the United States. The only question is, by how much? Thanks.